Today we're talking about 5 common spousal sponsorship application mistakes to avoid. My name is Olena Weber. I'm licensed immigration consultant, and this is Cory Weber, also regulated Canadian immigration consultant. Okay, Cory. So today we're going to talk about 5 major mistakes that we always see in spousal sponsorship applications. So
Yeah.
tell me, what is the first mistake that you always see?
So the most common one we're seeing now, which is a kind of a new thing, is using ChatGPT to fill out, like, for example, information about the relationship or, explanation letters or, even support letters from parents or family members, friends. And using ChatGPT, it's so obvious when it's ChatGPT. And, if the question is on the application, tell us a bit about your relationship, and you just spit out all this ChatGPT, info. It's very clear when I see that to me that that's ChatGPT. It's not coming from your person, it's not your personal beliefs. It's not your, it's just garbage. And ChatGPT always sounds the same, and it doesn't sound like human, right? So if it's clear to me, it will be clear to IRCC that that's what you're doing, and it just doesn't look good on an app. I'm not saying you're going to get refused or any, you might, but it just doesn't look good on an application when you're doing that, because it's supposed to be the whole point of the application is to prove you're in a true, genuine, loving relationship, and doing that with ChatGPT, it just looks bad, in my opinion. So that's a first one. It's a new one that we're seeing a lot, like, more commonly now. So I just don't do it. Just write those letters, do all that information from your own words, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And especially because spousal sponsorship is one of the biggest factors that officer assess it as how genuine your relationship is. So of course,
Exactly.
if the documents and the support letters, the explanation letters are not exactly genuine in a way that you didn't even write those, right? That it ultimately kind of breaks that trust or credibility or uh, you know gets officer
Of
to
course.
question the relationship
Yeah.
for sure.
You never want to raise red flags with IRCC about anything. And I think that having that ChatGPT does that. It raises red flags like, well, what are they, what are you actually feeling? You know what I mean? How are your actual relationship if you're
Exactly.
using ChatGPT? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's
exactly.
definitely a new thing. I think in our practice, we started seeing it this year only, that people start using it like really more and more, almost with
Yeah.
every case. And now we have to instruct our clients like, look, we understand that writing is hard, but you do need to write this.
Yeah. Well, I get it. It's a useful tool in so many other facets of life that people use ChatGPT for, but in this specific case, it's just not a helpful tool for you, right? Like you said, it's just not. It doesn't look good, and an officer is expecting true, genuine information about your relationship, not some computer generated, jargon spit out and yeah, it is a new thing this year specifically, but yeah, we've had to change our processes, with clients, yeah, like onboarding them and bringing them in and telling them, like, specifically, don't use ChatGPT. I can tell if you do, and if you do, I will make you redo it, right? So yeah, we've had to change our ways a little bit with it, but yeah, it's for the better, right?
Yes, exactly. Well, which brings us to the second point. So, the second common mistake that we're seeing is also along with ChatGPT is not really putting enough effort into spousal sponsorship application and just doing a
Yeah.
bare minimum, what's
Yeah.
technically required by the government.
Exactly. So yeah, that kind of goes hand in hand with like being lazy about things, I guess you could say. And people, when they give you options for spousal sponsorship, for example, they'll say, give us like minimum of two of the next whatever these different types of documents. And if you're only doing like two of them, for example, and they give you six options and you provide only, one statement, a bank statement with both names on it, and one, this or that other document, and you technically, checked two of those boxes off. Yeah, like, great, yeah, you did the bare minimum, but it looks bad, right? Like, if you can provide more, do so, right? And I think this is also what, like, we see this reflected in the current processing times as well for spousal sponsorships, that we do have like really high processing time for specifically inland sponsorships. I think it's 30 something months right now. It's really high, unprecedentedly high. And I think the reason is because people are doing a poor job of the application. And if there's questions about this, or if there's more documents required, if there's going to be requests for anything else, that raises those processing times. So in your best interest, you should provide a overwhelmingly, strong application package filled with tons of different quality documents and different categories of documents, and that would mitigate your processing time, hopefully, right? If you are going to file a shared expenses file and you only include one bank statement and one receipt, that's it. That's great technically, yeah, check the box, but I've had clients provide 600 pages of receipts and of proof of shared expenses, and I think that helps with the processing time. I tend to see stronger applications have less processing time. So don't be lazy.
Yeah, I want to say that specifically with spousal sponsorship application, this is the way to do it because it's about how genuine your relationship is. So yes, you want to show everything you can. When with, for example, express entry application, it is opposite because with express entry, you want to provide only those documents that are really, really proving exact qualifications that you have.
Exactly.
You don't want
Yeah,
to overwhelm them with some irrelevant documentation. So it's a bit
exactly.
different. And I think that's where a lot of applicants kind of get confused because if I
For sure.
immigrated through Express Entry was pretty small application. Then I'm doing my husband's spousal sponsorship, and I'm like, well, it's the same thing. I just attach this here, and I send it out when
And you're
it's
done, yeah.
just yeah, it's just the concept is a little bit different. Spousal sponsorship, it's actually the more the better when express
Yeah,
entry is not. Yeah.
exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah. It is two very different, one's an economic pathway, right? Like which is your express entry. And yeah, you want to have clean, just not complicated process, and the bare minimum is what you want with that, right? You don't want to use every single work history you've ever had. If you are only claiming one year of foreign work history, um yeah, then claim 1 year only, don't claim every job. But with sponsorship, if you have 5 years of personal history with this person, you want to show that, right? If you have 5 years worth of leases and 5 years worth of photos and 5 years, you want to include all that, right? So yeah, it is a very different application process for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, which leads us to the next common mistake. So the next common mistake is that because it's a super document heavy process, and a lot of times our spousal sponsorship cases are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of proof of relationship, and because it's so much documentation, there can be discrepancies within those documents, right?
Yep. Often people don't think about that, but like when I'm helping my clients when we're filing, I like to take an overall snapshot of the application, if that makes sense. Before I submit it, I need to like understand everything, and you need to understand everything about the relationship and dates and the explanation of things, or how you met, and all that needs to be thoroughly understood so that you can see the overall snapshot of the relationship to understand, for example, if there's let's say a support letter from a friend who says they met in September 2023, and you say that on one document, but in the application you say that we met in September 2024. Well, that's a major discrepancy in documents, and that would also raise those red flags from IRCC, right? How come in one document you say 23 and one document you say 24? So that's the kind of thing that you don't want, and you want to iron out all those little mistakes. So whether it's documentation, whether it's like we talked about like bills or statements that you're using, and support letters that you're using, the document, the IMM forms, the information, all of it needs to match. All of it needs to make sense together, dates and times and all of that stuff. So it's not something that you can really as you're filling the application, you might not notice it, but that's why I always advise people before they actually push the submit button, take a day off, go, outside and walk in the park, and then, come back the next day, look at your application as a whole, and just make sure you don't have any of these weird little, discrepancies in dates and times and things like that, right? So that's a very important one as well.
It's a lot of reading work, I have to say.
It,
It's a
it
lot
is,
of
yeah,
reading because you have to look through all the proof, the letters, the bank statements, driver licenses, which dates were issued, at which addresses people live,
exactly,
like whether those addresses match what's being sent in relationship form. Because truthfully, most of people don't remember their own lives. So in the
exactly.
application form, they think they're like moved in together in June, but then factually they moved in together in October, and that is not uncommon. So yeah,
Totally, yeah. Even with that, like, yeah, you have to put your address history, and like then you're providing a lease agreement that those dates don't match the dates that you say you were, like, you're in your address history, and your lease agreements are not lined up. Again, that's a red flag. Like, why aren't things matching here? So again, people try to like, kind of overlook that, and that's part of our job, is to make sure none of that is there, those discrepancies.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and couple of very, very common mistakes and complications that we see specifically with common law spousal sponsorships. So, if you are common law and you're residing in Canada, that's specifically for you. So, number one, biggest problem that we always see is not filing common law relationship previously to your spousal sponsorship.
Exactly. So if you are telling IRCC for your spousal sponsorship application, we've been common law for 3 years, starting in 2022 up until now, 2025. And we've been common law this whole time. And so here's our application. That's great. But did you consider, the work permit that you applied for in 2022, the study permit you applied for in 2023, the visitor record you applied for in 2020, for both of you, for your spouse and for you, the documents, like, or your permanent resident for the for the sponsor, maybe got within the last 3 years. Were you common law previously and you didn't mention that on those previous applications? That is a huge problem. And we have seen, not in our case, but some people reach out to us and say, like, we've been refused because we were previously common law. We never mentioned it before. Then we filed our common law sponsorship. And we had work permits and post-grad work permits and whatever other permits that we didn't file as common law previously when we were common law. And yeah, that is a major problem for sure.
Yeah, so definitely be careful with that. And also just note that even if you got married after being common law, it doesn't mean that it doesn't matter anymore. It still matters what you filed before. And especially what it matters the most, in my opinion, is to a PR person or Canadian citizen, because
Yeah,
if the person got a permanent residence as a single applicant, but at that point that single applicant was already a common law, and in this spousal sponsorship application you essentially revealed that permanent resident was a common law, he or
I
she was
should, yeah,
not.
that you
Yeah.
should have filed as common law at that time. Yeah,
So then in
exactly.
this case, you're not only jeopardizing spousal sponsorship, but you're actually jeopardizing permanent residency that is already granted. But if there was misrepresentation, that is not good, which
Yeah.
unfortunately happens.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, people, this is what people don't, and they don't consider, like, oh my gosh, I was actually a permanent common law before my PR was approved. Then you should have technically added that common law partner to your original PR application. And if you did not, that could be looked at as misrepresentation. Now that you're adding that, now you're trying to sponsor them, right? And they should have been in the original application. So yeah, very, very, very problematic. Be careful with that for sure. Yeah, you don't want to jeopardize the original person's permanent residence, right?
Exactly. Yes. All right. So with all of that, how do you prove a common law relationship when you're applying for spousal sponsorship?
Yeah. So again, it's those documents that prove that you've been living together for 1 year or more, right? So lease agreements, bills that show the same address for the both of you that cover 1 full year, right? So cell phone bills, bank statements, any other documents you have that show the same address for the both of you that cover that 1 full year. So there's multiple documents you could think of, right? That come to your house or that are addressed to you. So, from bank statements to job, what are they called? Pay stubs, anything like that. Like, and the more, the better that you can come up with. So, those mutual documents in both names also help. So if you have a bank account together with both names and it's, you have that 1 year of time on that account, showing that, statement from the very beginning, covering the start of the 1 year to the end of the 1 year, including some of those documents is very important because a lot of people forget that not only it's not just like here's some documents from last month and this month, and here's like a common law declaration. You have to also prove that you've been living together for that full 1 year. So you need some documents from the very beginning of the relationship, covering the full year, to the end, right up until before you apply, right? So it's important to do all of those documents together. Yeah.
Okay, well, sounds good. Well, thank you so much. And guys, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video. And if you have any questions, just let us know in comments and we will be happy to help you. And we'll see you in our next video.